All right, this video is for TikTok. TikTok. Hey, everybody. Everybody's talking about the Shiloh Hendrix. If you gave money to Karmelo Anthony, shut up. If you gave money and supported Karmelo Anthony and said, well, he was just defending himself against that big white boy, shut up. White people have now shown they are sick and tired of being victims of black violence. And when they are victims of black violence, all they get is the black community justifying these young black men assaulting, beating them up, robbing them, and then you start GoFundMe so they won't go to jail. The same people who believe Karmelo Anthony is okay to defend himself wanted Daniel Penny in jail for choking out the crackhead Jordan Nelly. Choking out the crackhead Jordan Nelly, who was threatening and harming people. You know, funny, when Jordan Nelly was on the train threatening people, threatening to harm people, black folk was like, that ain't a reason to hurt nobody. That ain't a reason to kill nobody. But when Karmelo Anthony stabbed a boy in the heart for telling him to get out of his tent, get out of the tent, you don't belong in that tent, they justified it. Kind of like people sick and tired of black folk hypocrisy and black folk unaliving people. Karmelo Anthony unalived Austin Metcalf. And Karmelo Anthony has raised over $500,000 on the same GoFundMe Shiloh Hendrix used. But y'all are mad at Shiloh because she caught a boy stealing out of her purse. And don't say kids do that, because my daughters was taught about 2 years old. You don't go in your baby bag to get your baba unless daddy give you permission. So if I taught my kids, you don't go into the baby bag and take your baba out without permission, that's a parenting thing what that little boy did. And she said she reacted to a way she thought was okay. Well, she got a baby in her arms talking about another little child. Well, how many videos have we seen of black women fighting with kids in their arms?
Exactly. I'm glad someone said it. Boy, oh boy, am I glad that someone said it. They will be holding a baby in one hand, and they'll be yanking out a bitch's weave with the other hand. And it's these same people, these very people, that constantly put this ratchet behavior on full display. These same people are the ones criticizing Shiloh. These are the same people that feel like they have a place to criticize Shiloh. Look, if this criticism was coming from people who were halfway decent people, I wouldn't say anything about it. But this criticism is coming from people who celebrated the murder of Austin Metcalf. This criticism is coming from people who celebrate murder, as long as it's a white person. This criticism is coming from a ghetto, ratchet, just despicable portion of a certain community. That's where most of this criticism is coming from. And I just feel like they have no place to criticize anyone. Sweep your front porch before you worry about someone else's. Clean your house, worry about what problems you got before you go around criticizing anyone else. That's how I feel. But you see, it's not just these ratchet people who are doing this. It's not just the Karmelo Anthony supporters. It's not just certain portions of the black community. It's also the mainstream media now. As you guys know, I've been covering the Austin Metcalf case since it started. I've been covering the Shiloh Hendrix situation since it happened. And I watched the media cover the Austin Metcalf case for 2 or 3 days, all up until they interviewed someone that told them Karmelo liked to fight, that Karmelo was known for fighting. As soon as they got that little clip put on the news, next thing you know, the media dropped all coverage of the case. The media never once mentioned all of the racist hate that was being spread by Carmelo Anthony supporters. They never once mentioned all of the lies and stuff that were being spread about Austin. They never complained. They never put any pressure on Give, Send, Go to take down Carmelo's fundraiser. They never pointed out the racist, evil comments on Carmelo's fundraiser. Never, not once. But over the past few days, I've watched the mainstream media have a meltdown about Shiloh. Article after article after article about Shiloh Hendrix. They only talked about Austin Metcalf for a couple of days and then shut it down when some information came out that they didn't want out there that made Karmelo look bad. But when it comes to Shiloh, they've been talking about it ever since it happened. And now they've been bringing on the Give, Send, Go co-founder. They've been bringing him on these different news programs to basically yell at him and pressure him to take down Shiloh's fundraiser. But they never ever did this when it came to Karmelo. So understand, these ignorant, racist people, these Carmelo Anthony supporters that we're dealing with, understand that they are backed up by the mainstream media. Understand that a lot of them have this mentality that they have because they've been programmed to think this way by the mainstream media. And once again, they always show their hypocrisy. They always show why you can't trust them. Even the ones you think you can trust, you can't. Once again, they're out here, they're freaking out about Shiloh while they turned a blind eye to Karmelo, and they're proving to the American people that the mainstream media is just not to be trusted. But with that being said, I want to roll this clip so you all can see a little bit of what I'm talking about here, and then I'll be right back with more thoughts.
You know what would help you corporately? If you were genuinely true to your mission statement as a Christian site, that you want to protect children, and you were big on that at the start of this interview, I want to protect the kids, then you would remove her site immediately once you had established in your own brain that she'd racially abused a 5-year-old, which, by the way, she admits to doing, right? So you could just do that like that.
Yeah, no, we could do a lot of things, but in the country that we live in, there are certain fabric elements that make this America what it is, and they need to be defended. So
is free
just
speech
because
one
people
of them?
have upset feelings.
Free speech?
Free speech, freedom of expression.
Really? And yet, how odd? Because, Mr. Wells, unless I'm mistaken, you have now removed the ability to comment and removed all the comments on this particular donation site, haven't you? Where's the free speech rights of those people who commented? Or are you just a hypocrite?
No, well, recognize what free speech is. Free speech is a prohibition against the government enacting laws to prohibit your speech.
You literally just made a speech talking about freedom of expression and free speech, but you have removed all the comments from here. Why are you suppressing and censoring people's right to free speech to comment on these sites?
We have, as a private business, the right to operate our business the way that we want to operate.
You have the right to suppress free speech. I don't dispute it. I'm just curious why you pretend to be this great defender of free speech when you're literally doing the opposite.
No, what we saw very clearly in this situation was a campaign for Carmelo Anthony, and on the back of it, a campaign for Shiloh, and they were competing off of each other. And they were in a cycle of vitriolic vitriolic tornado of sorts, and we said we need to put some calming effect on this by removing the back and forth element that's going on in this particular situation. It wouldn't necessarily have happened if these campaigns were completely independent, months, years apart from each other.
But as a Christian, again,
because
I'm told that the Give, Send, Go site for Luigi Mangione, who we saw allegedly executing a healthcare boss in cold blood. I don't think there's much allegedly about it, but we'll let the process take its course. He's got nearly £1 million for his defence via your site. And, you know, it's sort of odd, isn't it? Is there not an inconsistency in your Christian position on this? That on the one hand,
it shows your lack of understanding what Christian faith actually stands for.
On the
Now, I've followed the Austin Metcalf story and the Shiloh Hendrix story closer than just about anyone else you can name. And not once did I ever see any pressure put on Give, Send, Go to take down the Karmelo Anthony campaign. And when I say never once did I see any pressure, I mean coming from like the media and people with power. Yeah, there were people online complaining, and even I complained, but you didn't see the media bringing on Jacob to, argue with him and yell at him and make him feel bad about the Karmelo Anthony campaign and the hateful stuff that was being said. None of that pressure was applied there. And most of these news anchors and reporters, most of them never commented on Karmelo at all. But now all of a sudden they're paying attention. They weren't paying attention for the last month, but they're paying attention to Shiloh. Do you think these people were unaware about the Karmelo Anthony story? No. They were afraid to cover that story because it involved a black person, and they know when you cover a story involving a black person, you're going to be accused of being a racist, and you're going to get all this hate from the black community. So these people willfully ignore these stories because they're scared of the pushback, but when it comes to Shiloh, they're not afraid to speak out against Shiloh because she's white. So all of this energy that they have to shut down the Shiloh campaign, none of them said that when it comes to Karmelo Anthony. Now, as far as this little exchange goes between Jacob and Piers Morgan did have a point there a few times. He criticized Jacob in the way that I've been criticizing Jacob. You can't sit here and act like you're this champion of free speech when you allowed free speech for Karmelo's fundraiser for over a month, but you shut down free speech as soon as people started supporting Shiloh. So even though me and Piers Morgan do not see eye to eye here, even though we're not on the same side of this situation, I do appreciate him calling out the hypocrisy. Because when it comes to Jacob Wells, you may like some of the stuff he's saying now, and I like some of the stuff he's saying now, but this is not some of the stuff that he was saying a couple of weeks ago. And what he's saying may sound good, but his actions often tell a different story. So I don't trust Jacob. Jacob already gave me a very bad first impression. I give credit where credit is due. And I liked how he handled himself in the News Nation interview that I showed you guys a couple of videos back. In this interview, they're trying to put him up against the wall. Once again, they're trying to pressure him to take down the campaign. I'm glad that he's not taking down the campaign, but he is a hypocrite, like Piers Morgan said. You can't deny that because we've seen the hypocrisy be put on full display. Maybe not necessarily through words all the time, but through actions. But the point that I'm really trying to make here is that we're seeing a lot of pressure when it comes to the Shiloh Hendrix fundraiser. We're seeing people freak out about it as they turned a blind eye to Karmelo. And now we're seeing mainstream media and these other prominent figures, they're all speaking out about it when they turned a blind eye to Karmelo as well. So don't think it's just portions of the black community. Don't think it's just a couple of idiots here and there on social media. No, you got powerful forces behind the scenes that are working against Shiloh. And more so, they're not working against Shiloh. They're working against people like me and you, standing up for ourselves and pointing out these issues with cancel culture and pointing out the issues with anti-whiteness and all of this hate that's coming from portions of the black community and even other communities as well. Understand the attacks against Shiloh. A lot of them aren't personal attacks. A lot of it is about the bigger message, the bigger situation that's going on behind the scenes. Because best believe, all of this is much bigger than surface level, okay? All of this is much bigger than surface level, and they realize that, and that's why they're freaking out right now. They're squirming, because for the first time in a very long time, they saw white people actually come together, and that is a very scary thing for them, because they want us all living how we've been living for decades, as lone wolves, not really viewing ourselves as a community, as a tribe. That's what they want. They don't, and they want all these other groups of people clicking up and being tribal, while white people are more individual. So it scares the living hell out of them when they see white people stick together for once. But you guys let me know what you think of all this down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, ring that notification bell, and I'll talk to you all very soon in the next one.